and welcome back to blackdoctor.org. I am your host, Dr. Renee. And today, I teased it last week, but today we have a really, really amazing guest with an amazing discussion. So I need you all to please share this broadcast on whatever platform you're watching it on. Share, share, share. Tell everyone what's going on because you don't want them to miss it, because I guarantee that you know somebody who has high blood pressure. If it is not you, it is a first degree relative of yours, brother, sister, cousin, aunt, mother, father, grandmother, grandfather. Somebody has high blood pressure, and I know that they need this information. So, as you see, Amran is a part of this discussion today. And if you don't know the word Amran, I can't believe that you don't know Amran. Amran makes most of the most amazing blood pressure monitors that we use every day in the hospitals, outside of the hospitals, in our homes. So please, please, please make sure that you let your family know this is a discussion you don't want to miss. So our guest today is Dr. Stephanie Lucas. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for joining us. So Dr. Lucas is special because one, she's from Detroit. Two, I just found out she's West Indian. Um, so that makes her the best because she's just like me. I'm from Detroit and I'm West Indian. But
Mhm.
you guys, she is an internal medicine doctor in Detroit, and she is utilizing the best innovation I've heard yet for blood pressure. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But first, I want you guys, in case you don't know, because there are people that don't know, how important is knowing our blood pressures?
It is vital that we know our blood pressure. High blood pressure is a silent killer. In other words, it's something that you'll feel fine, but this could be damaging to your heart. It could cause strokes, it causes heart attacks, it damages your kidneys. In fact, it's one of the leading causes of kidney disease in people going on dialysis, as well as strokes and heart attacks. The scary thing is that it's so quiet that you don't even know that it's happening to you. So you won't feel pain, you won't see any rashes, you won't see anything, but meantime this is doing silent damage to your blood vessels. And unfortunately, as people of color, we're much more likely to have high blood pressure than other people. And it does a lot more damage to us than it can do to many other people.
So it's so important, you guys, to know your blood pressure. Because as she said, I know you've heard of people dying at 20 something, 30 something, and there's like some, they'll say natural causes. There, no, usually they probably just, their heart stopped beating for a reason. They had a heart attack.
Yes, it's one of the things is that it doesn't have any signs until it does the damage. And the damage is happening on the inside so you can't see it. There was a book that I read many years ago called The Picture of Dorian Gray. And it was a picture of a young man, and he was so handsome that somebody took his picture and he made a deal with the devil. He says, if I could just look like this picture forever, um, I'll sell my soul to the devil. And he did. And so he did all kinds of terrible, terrible things, but he looked so sweet and innocent, nobody believed anything was wrong with him. So it's the same thing with high blood pressure. You'll look great on the outside. There won't be any damage to you will look great. But on the inside, your blood vessels will look much older. In other words, you might be 40 years old, but your blood vessels, the blood vessels that go to your brain, the blood vessels that go to your heart, the blood vessels that go to your kidneys, they may look like they're 60 years old because of the constant pressure that this blood pressure is doing on those blood vessels. It's damaging them and causing them to block and cause you to have these problems like heart attacks, strokes, and kidney damage.
And if you didn't believe her when she said kidney disease, if you look in any urban area, there are so many dialysis centers. It blows me away how many dialysis centers are coming up. And I mean, I swear every week there is a new one coming to each of these neighborhoods. So please understand that this is why people are having to go under dialysis, because diabetes causes problems to your vessels that will also cause you blood pressure issues. So we need to pay attention to our blood pressure. So can you
Yes.
explain to us why, how did you hear about Vital Sight?
Well, as a result of the pandemic, we were unable to see patients in our office. We had patients, the last patient I saw on a Friday afternoon who was perfectly healthy. On Tuesday, she was in the ICU with COVID. And in fact, she had been to a Weight Watcher meeting 3 weeks before, and 8 people in that meeting died of COVID. I mean, that was how bad it was. So we had to close our office and we weren't able to see patients in the office. And yet, and this is part of the disparities that happen in health, my patients were not able to get into emergency rooms, urgent cares were closed. There was nothing between me taking care of patients, and there was nowhere else you could go. So I developed a telehealth program where I could talk to people on the telephone and I could take care of the medical problems, and that was good. But then as things started to open up, people would go to the emergency room for something else, and then they'd find out that their blood pressure was like 200 over 100. And our goal is to have a blood pressure of 130 over 80 at that's at least to have it less than that. So when people are having blood pressures in that range, they were in real danger of having a heart attack and stroke. And since I couldn't see them in the office, there was nothing that I could do to monitor them. So I had to look around and try to find a way to monitor these patients while without seeing them in the office. So Omron, which makes blood pressure cuffs, has always been known as the standard of for good blood pressure cuffs. If you look in Consumers Report, if you ask the kidney specialist, Omron has always been the leader in blood pressure cuffs. So I wanted to be able to get blood pressure cuffs for my patients. So initially, I was going to go on Amazon and just buy a whole bunch of blood pressure cuffs from Omron. But I went on their site and I found that they had a special system that they had developed that allowed me to not only give the patient a blood pressure cuff, have it covered often by the insurances, but also I could monitor their blood pressure at home. And one of the problems that I had was a lot of my patients, when they were communicating with me, they did not have internet. And I was trying to figure out how was I going to get internet for my patients. I actually called the president of Comcast, trying to figure out how we could get cheap internet for patients. But what was so cool about this system was that they actually delivered the blood pressure cuff and a scale to patients at their home with a special transmitter that was pre-programmed so that it would read directly into my office so that I could actually see when a person took their blood pressure at home. I saw the reading. They didn't have to call me. They didn't have to write it down. They didn't have to do anything. I got to see it immediately. And so it was really a perfect thing for my patients so that when they had when they went into the hospital or when they went somewhere and the blood pressure was high, I was immediately able to follow them. They didn't have to come into the office. They didn't have to go anywhere. I could start their medicines, monitor the medicines, get them into a safe range of blood pressure control. And also, as time went on, it's fine to for telemedicine or what we call telehealth, where you talk to the doctor on the phone or by Zoom. That's fine for many things, but the idea, at least for my patients who not only have diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, but the idea of not monitoring their blood pressure for 3 to 6 months was actually scary, and it was very bad. So by having this system, I was able to have patients monitor their blood pressure every day, and I was able to get the readings. And then I hired a special nurse to work with my patients so that he would call me as soon as he saw somebody's blood pressure going up. And this was helpful on so many levels. First of all, my patients got to see on a daily basis what their blood pressure was, because so many people would come into the office and they would say, "Oh, doctor, my blood pressure is normal, but when I come to your office, my blood pressure goes up. It's always normal at home, but my blood pressure is high when I come to your office." Or I'd say, "Or I forgot to take my medicines today." Or I drank some coffee, so that's why my blood pressure is high. So there'd be a lot of reasons why people would come into the office and their blood pressure is high. And I said, "Oh, okay, well, I won't change your medicines today, but I probably should." So 3 months later, they'd come to the office. "Oh, well, today I got mad at my husband and he," and so we would keep delaying their blood pressure control. With this, my patients are now seeing, "Oh my gosh, it's not Dr. Lucas's office. My blood pressure is high every single day." In fact, now instead of me trying to convince patients that they need to take their blood pressure, and to take their medicines, they're calling me and saying, "Hey, nobody called me. My blood pressure's high. What's wrong with you guys?" So it's really been a really great way to get a much different relationship with my patients. I've been able to, you know, we've actually been friends now. We're actually working together. They're beginning to see what things are doing to their blood pressure, like what stresses are doing, because a lot of us, there's stresses that you just can't avoid, that you get every day, that you just, you have to deal with. And you have to ask yourself, is this worth dying for? Because every day that your blood pressure is high, you are taking some days off of your life. And so when somebody is getting on your nerves or when the job is bothering you, you have to ask yourself, is this worth dying for? Is this worth giving up some of my life for? So by having this blood pressure cuff at home, you're able to see, boy, every time I deal with Johnny, my blood pressure goes sky high. So maybe that will be a message to you. Hey, if Johnny's coming down the street, you better walk the other way. Or if you can't change it, then you might have to change your attitude or the way that you deal with things so that you don't raise your blood pressure and you don't lose days of your life or damage your kidneys or have a risk of a heart attack or a stroke because of other things. So it changes the whole paradigm where the patient is in control. They are seeing what certain foods, if they eat a chitlin sandwich, they know their blood pressure is going to go up. And so I don't have to say, don't eat a chitlin sandwich. They will know that that's something that maybe I shouldn't do because that's going to raise my blood pressure. Can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay. So vital sight is something that's actually covered by insurances, right?
Yes, that's the really cool thing about this. That this is something, vital sites, this whole system. In other words, the whole system is that we in the office, basically, the first thing that I do for patients who I find have high blood pressure is I first of all try to teach them the natural things that they could do themselves to help lower their blood pressure. Because everybody says, "Oh, I don't want to take these stupid medicines. I hate these medicines." So I tell them, okay, you can use your food as medicine. You can either use your food to need more medicine or you can use your food as medicine. So I try to tell people, I first try to give them, ideas as far as things that they could do with their lifestyle. So I tell them, for instance, eat God's food the way that God made it. So that, if you can find a pizza tree, go for it. But God didn't make pizza trees. God made fruit and vegetables and trying to eat more natural foods and eat them closer to the way that God made it so that maybe you'll steam it, but God didn't fry it. So first we try to go with things that people can do. Then we try to also increase their physical activity. Some people, we try to send them to physical therapy so that they can increase their exercise. We also have a weight loss program that's associated with it. So every week we found that patients were getting pandemic pounds because they were eating so much in response to stress. So we started sort of a support group that meets every week that helps people lose weight and by monitoring their weight and being part of this group discussion. And a couple of our patients have lost over 50 pounds during the pandemic, which, as you can imagine, is really remarkable. Many patients have gained 50 pounds during the pandemic. So we first try to teach them all the natural things that they can do to help lower their blood pressure. And then we tell them the correct way to check their blood pressure. In other words, there's certain ways that you have to check your blood pressure correctly, so that sometimes people were getting blood pressure cuffs that were inaccurate, or they were putting them around their wrist, or they wouldn't putting them on correctly, or they'd be things like crossing your legs or drinking coffee. All of those things can affect your blood pressure. So we try to teach people the correct way to check their blood pressure, because the only thing worse than no blood pressures are incorrect blood pressures. So that's the first thing that we try to do. Then we get And one thing that we found was to get a good address because we had some porch pirates who, stole these things off people's porches, which was terrible. But the nice thing is that they send the whole kit, and it's a beautiful kit to patients with a scale and a blood pressure cuff, and then the patient, then Amron will actually call and help make sure it's all set up and connected so that you can send your readings directly to the doctor. So the doctor then on his computer can check. Every time you check your blood pressure, the doctor gets a reading on your blood pressure so that we can tell what your blood pressure is. And as soon as we start seeing it become elevated, then we can jump right in. Sometimes we'll just call you and you'll say, oh, my blood pressure is elevated because of something. And then we'll say, okay, well, let's check it for the next week and see what happens. So we work very closely with our patients to make sure that their blood pressure stays under control. And what's nice, we can do it over the telephone. And what's even better is that most insurances are paying for it. So that if anything, some people do have a small copay, but most people, their insurance pays for the whole thing. And so it allows you to connect with your doctor and in real life under your real situations, not just once every 3 months or once every 6 months or irregularly. It allows you to just have just see what's happening under your real life conditions, and so that you can make changes and you can see the changes yourself. You can see that when you do certain things that your blood pressure is going up. If you missed your medicines, you can see it going up. You can see, and therefore you can take control. And when you know how important it is to control your blood pressure, when you see in Detroit, for instance, there are more dialysis centers going up than there are churches. You know,
And that's
people,
saying a lot.
yes. And
That's
there
saying a
are,
lot in a Detroit neighbor in an urban area of Black people that there's
yes,
more dialysis centers and churches. Because even in Chicago, I mean, there's a church on every corner.
yes. Yeah, so that's very sobering.
It
And
is.
then the strokes. And sometimes it's not just the big strokes. There can be those little teeny mini strokes. Because remember that the blood vessels that go to your brain are some of the teeniest, weeniest blood vessels that you have in your body. So when those blood vessels get blocked or get damaged, those are your memory cells. And you don't want to have dementia. I mean, although you won't care, other people around you will care, and it's not a good thing to have. And strokes, of course, we all know that strokes can affect you anywhere. Can you imagine if you had a stroke and you weren't able to talk or you weren't able to move a part of your body? It is very, very sobering. And the thing about high blood pressure is that it happens so quietly. And I'll see people spend $300 getting braids or getting their hair done or getting their nails or getting all these kinds of other things done. And then they won't take their $2 blood pressure medicine. So it's very important that we keep our priorities straight and that we do what's important, because no matter how good you look on the outside, if your inside is messed up, it's done for you.
Health is wealth.
Health is wealth. Health is everything.
It's everything. It's
Health
everything.
is
I tell
everything.
everyone if you don't have your health, you don't have to worry about that date, that job, nothing, no responsibilities at all because you will probably be dead. So, um,
Nothing else matters. As I always tell people, if it could be fixed with money, it ain't a problem. The things that can't be fixed with money,
that's
that's
the
your health.
problem. You're right. And health is one of those things. So I want to make sure we reiterate that our senior population or anyone who is on Medicare or Medicaid, they also can get vital sight, correct?
That is correct. Yes, it's got very good coverage by the insurance companies, and it really overcomes some of the disparities that happen, especially for people of color, because so often, I've always had problems, especially in the wintertime with transportation,
Yeah.
my patients not being able to come to the office. And so this way, I'm able to take much better care of them because I feel comfortable that I have accurate blood pressure readings coming in so that while I'm refilling their prescriptions, I can go 6 months without
Right.
seeing them, because sometimes they would have to not see me for 6 months just because they didn't have anyone to bring them to my
Transportation.
office.
Exactly.
Yes. And it doesn't, and I don't, and they don't need internet. And so many of my patients with this telehealth, they did not have internet. And I'll tell you, it was a very great problem that I was beginning to have, trying to figure out a way that I could get this information to come into my office, because I don't have the staff to be taking calls every day
Every
with people's blood pressures.
right.
So without internet, I couldn't be able to do that. So this transmitter that transmits the information directly into my office is just so vital.
Yeah. So I also wanted to understand, I want everyone to understand your patient population. You have some senior patients, and even they were able to maneuver this apparatus, correct?
Oh, absolutely. The majority of my patients are older. The majority of my patients have a lot of challenges, a lot of medical problems. I mean, and the problem with high blood pressure is that things like high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, they're so quiet. They do all their little damage behind the scene. Nobody knows about them. They'll come in with, oh, I got a pimple on my face. I got this, I got that. They come in with things that are, that are not going to, have long term bad things happen to them. Whereas meanwhile, that blood pressure is just pounding away at their blood vessels. It's just damaging it every single day, every single minute. So just think of when you have your blood pressure elevated day after day, the extra wear and tear that that's doing on your blood vessels, that's what's happening. And you don't feel a thing. You feel fine.
Do you have any success stories?
Oh gosh, we've had a lot of success stories. First of all, the one of the greatest success stories is that we've been able to keep people out of the hospital. Previously, when these blood pressures were elevated, I'd have to send people to the hospital because it was so elevated. Now I can safely monitor them because I can check their blood pressure every day, and I can give them a medicine, and I can see how it's going down. So we've been able to keep people from having to go to the emergency room and having to go to the hospital. So those are immediate dangers. One of the tests that I always tell people to monitor, and it's not a perfect test, but it's called the GFR, and that's the glomerular filtration rate. That's how your kidneys are doing. So we've had some people who, because of their high blood pressure, the GFR was decreasing every single day. And not every, well, every single month that I would see them. In other words, a person should have a GFR. I mean, it's not a perfect test, but it should be above 60. So when you start seeing that GFR start to decrease, that can be a sign that your kidneys are starting to show damage. So that we were able to show people who had this GFR that was starting to decrease because of high blood pressure, that we stopped it from decreasing. And that's really good. And in some cases, it actually came up some. In addition, I think that for us, one of the things that we had was it was very hard. We were short staffed, like many doctors' offices were. So, by being able to give a special nurse directly to patients who were in the program, they had immediate access to our office because he could call us if something was going on right away. So, that immediate care and not waiting 6 months before you change someone's blood pressure, you may not be able to see that right away. I mean, things like the hospitalizations, the kidney function, those types of things you can see sooner. Preventing a heart attack or a stroke, maybe you can't see that as easily on the on a short term, but I can see people's blood pressures that were elevated coming down. And the nice thing is I can do it all over the phone without them having to go to specialist. And I have a specialist who kind of works with me with high blood pressure, and she's able to treat them on the phone without them having to go anywhere else. And that's especially important, during the winter months, during the COVID season. And so the more immediate treatment is invaluable. The weight loss program, we had a lot of people who, they give you a scale.
Mhm.
And so with the scale, sometimes during the pandemic, we're wearing elastic clothes and they can get stretched and you don't really notice it too much. Okay. And I said, I'm starting to wear my jeans again now so that I can kind of stay a little bit honest with myself. And so so with these, by with the weight loss program, a lot of people were getting isolated. They couldn't visit their kids. They could, people couldn't visit them. They were, especially some patients who had a lot of medical problems, so that we were able to start this group, and the group has really stayed cohesive, and they're really supportive, and they have helped each other. And as I say, some have lost, some didn't lose as much because I don't know if they really followed it quite as well, but at least they stayed mindful and they didn't gain. But the other people, maybe the people who really stayed with it, they kind of help the other patients. And that's the really cool thing about this,
Community.
is engagement, patients helping patients,
Right.
so that as a doctor, I'm able to kind of sit back and stop being, I think I can be the guide from the side instead of I forget, there's some sort of saying like that. But anyway, I'm able to just kind of sit back and let people help people and come up with solutions for each other that maybe I wouldn't have thought of. But these
Right.
are people who are experiencing some of the same things that other people are experiencing, and so that they may come up with an idea that, another person, or sometimes they'll just say to me, "Oh, come on, get over it.
Right.
You ain't got a problem there."
Right.
And so they kind of help each other too. So that has been, another good part of it, in addition to just overall lowering the blood pressures and preventing the emergency rooms visits and stopping people's kidneys from declining. So a lot of things have been, beneficial from the program. But most of all, it's from the doctor's standpoint. I am really happy that, I never felt comfortable when somebody would come in month after month and their blood pressure would be elevated, and I could not change their
What was
medicines,
happening
and
in
I was letting
between?
them,
Yeah.
yeah, and I was letting them keep going like that.
So she's been using Vital Sight for a year, so it's amazing, as you hear. So for the people that are patients, I want you to see that the link is in the post. And you can easily go in. It's in the Facebook post, and I'll make sure it gets in the other ones. But you can go in and you can click that link, and you can take that information to your doctor and see if maybe your doctor would like to do this wonderful program. If you are a physician, go to the same link and you can get put on with the program. But we have some really great question. We have a really great question. But if you have any other questions, please post them in the comments, whatever platform you're on, and I will try to address them. But this is a great one. What 3 things can one do to avoid developing high blood pressure?
The best things that you can do are to, what a lot of us are predisposed to high blood pressure just because of heredity. People of color have more high blood pressure, so there are some things that just make you more likely to have high blood pressure. But if there were things that you could do, number one would be to maintain a healthy weight and to eat a healthy diet. The more vegetable based diet that you would have, the better. Certain things that we know can raise the blood pressure, like high salt and, fatty, and foods that have a lot of calories, will make you gain weight. So eating more healthy foods, as I mentioned before, God's food, the way that God made it, is probably the best recommendation I could make. Also, physical activity. Stress, many times physical activity may not help you lose weight so much, but what it can do is it changes your body composition so that you have more muscle and less fat. Particularly, what you want to get rid of is that fat around your belly. That belly fat is almost like a cancer center for you. It increases your risk of high blood pressures, cancers, and it's something that you want to try to avoid. So exercise, by changing your body composition, having more muscle and less fat. It also reduces some of your stress by releasing some hormones that make you feel good. Also, watching your stress level. Many of us are in situations where we have, some people have always had the feeling that people of color have more high blood pressure because we are under more stress. And I really do believe that there is some element to that, that we have many
Let's
times
just
more
pause,
stressful.
but look at the world today.
Yes,
We have 2 major trials going on that
yes,
are going to send us over the edge with the verdicts. But
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, that we have, we have on so many levels. We have the Black man's burden that we're carrying. There's so many things that we are dealing with that other people don't have, that are stressful just by themselves. But often, in addition to that, there's relationship stress, there's job stress, There are many types of stresses that we're dealing with. So finding a way to deal with those stresses, some of them you can get rid of, some of them you can't. But many times you can find a way to deal with them effectively so that they're not raising your blood pressure. And by having this kit, for instance, you can actually see. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I use the kit myself. I signed up for it myself. I signed my parents up for it because I want to see, there's some stresses that I have that, there's some people I just found I had to avoid them. Let's put it that way.
Right. Yeah, you have to do what you have to do. So I hope that helps out whoever asked that question. When is the best time to take your blood pressure?
Well, many times people, paradoxically, more heart attacks and strokes sometimes occur in the morning. Some people feel that that could be because maybe the medications that we feel that last 24 hours are not lasting that long. So I tell people to kind of vary it throughout the day. But if I were to check it one time, would possibly be in the morning, but do it before you drink coffee, do it before you have stresses. And that might be the best time. But then I also tell people sometimes to do it at the end of a stressful day to see how different things are affecting your blood pressure. So I tell people that I kind of mix it up a little bit because I want to get a realistic sampling of how your blood pressure is responding to certain things that you do. So, but the classical answer is to check it in the morning to make sure, especially if you're taking blood pressure pills once a day, that they have the full 24-hour effect that they're supposed to have.
Okay. So everyone knows Thanksgiving is a week from today. So you said food is medicine, or you could eat food and cause you to take medicine. So let's think of what can we recommend to the audience that they should possibly think about eating or eating less of or something so that they can have a fruitful and wonderful Thanksgiving but not end up with itis that turns into, because I know that there are numbers of how many heart attacks happen after Thanksgiving meals and Christmas meals, all those big meals. There are numbers, of visits to the ER. I've heard about it, on the news you hear Friday morning. So let's eliminate, let's prevent that. What are some suggestions you have? I have a few myself, but what are some
Okay, some of the
suggestions you have?
suggestions are sometimes to bring your own meals. Um, and again, one of the things that I always tell people is one of my secret tricks. If I ever, the people have is they call themselves good cooks, but I could be a good cook if I put bacon, butter, salt, sugar on it. I could be a fantastic cook. So my challenge to everybody is if you're really a good cook, to start making things taste good without frying it, without bacon and butter and cheese and all those additives, adding natural spices, eating things lightly steamed, doing things like that. As I said, as close to the way that God made it, the better. So that if you could fill up your plate with more vegetables, so at least half your plate would be nice vegetables, lightly steamed, not collard greens cooked in fatback, but lightly steamed spinach or something like that. With turkey, turkey is not bad, but it's not the skin. It's to take the skin off and maybe eat the turkey breast without the skin. Try to work with spices. Try to find ways to make things taste good without bacon, butter, cheese, those types of things, and to minimize the amount of salt that you put on things. So that would be the general rule. And to watch the quantity. I tell people to start using, there's certain apps that I have people use, such as Lose It, so that many times we say that we know how much that we're eating, and we just say, well, all I had was this, but it was, all I had was a cup of juice. And then they don't realize that the cup of juice was this big. I remember the first time I went to Costco and I saw their hot dogs and they were like this big, and the sodas, I could swim in it. Quantity is important, and to realize to try to get as much, I call it TJ Maxx it. In other words, get the most
Most for
food with
you.
the minimum calories so that things that have higher fiber that take longer to digest. In other words, you could either have 2 cups of orange juice Or you could have 4 oranges and drink 4 cups of water, have the same calories, have better nutrition, better bowel movements, better everything. So, trying to eat things that have higher fiber that will make you feel fuller. And I always tell people to drink a couple of glasses of water before you go, because that will kind of make your body feel a little bit fuller. And if you really want to cheat, you might take something like a fiber fill, like a sugar-free Metamucil, or eat an apple or something like that. So in other words, drink 2 glasses of water and eat an apple, so that you're not going there super
Starving.
starving and you're eating 500 calories before your body gets a chance to say, okay, I'm full, I'm full, I'm full. You've already taken a little bit of, your body has had a chance to respond to that.
So, my suggestion is so, whomever is making the food, first of all, she said less salt. She didn't say no taste. You'd be amazed if you used other seasonings, how great things can taste without using salt. So, you should try that. Secondly, she didn't mention, because she was kind, the fried turkey. You don't have to fry the turkey. Smoked turkey is healthy. And of course, just regular roasting a turkey is healthy. But frying the turkey is probably not the healthiest way to go. Frying a turkey in a vat of oil. But I mean, but smoked turkey can taste delicious. Like I said, it's all about the seasoning. You can roast a turkey and it can be just as moist. All about the seasoning and the person preparing the turkey. Collard greens, because these are the things that would be on our tables. I love collards like the rest of you, but you don't have to cook them all day. If your water turns green, there is no point in eating them because all the nutrients have now floated into the water and they are no longer in the vegetable. Try sauteing the collard greens. Or you cook them in one of these fancy instant pots or something like that with less water. And season it with turkey, not pork, because pork is very salty. And so, like I said, we're trying to decrease salt, right? So, season it with a turkey wing, a turkey leg instead of a ham hock. Okay. Um, what other things would be on the table? Macaroni and cheese. There are ways to get around that as well, you guys. You can buy noodles that are made from chickpeas, like bonza noodles. I think I've heard recently they sell zucchini noodles in the store now that are made macaroni style. There's quinoa noodles. There's all sorts of ways to decrease your macaroni and cheese so it's not, you know, a cholesterol waiting to, heart attack waiting to happen. Cheese, there's vegan cheese. I personally am not big on cheese, I will tell you. So I don't know what vegan cheese tastes like. And I'll be honest with you, I don't eat mac and cheese. So, but there are ways to get around mac and cheese as well. Cranberry sauce, you guys, that fresh cranberry sauce with the cranberries, just watch how much sugar you put in it. But it is delicious. But just watch how much sugar you put in it. And if you're like me, you would use Truvia, which is a natural sugar, stevia, right? Stevia plant. What other items am I? Oh, if you are a family that does mashed potatoes, I know most of us do not, but if you are a family that does mashed potatoes, try mashed cauliflower and don't tell them you did it. Try mashed cauliflower. My sister, actually, Chef Alicia Nicole, was here on blackdoctor.org and did a cooking demonstration. She made mashed cauliflower. You can find that video, and maybe I'll try to cue it up for you. But you can find that video, and she did that. But you can always Google mashed cauliflower. I'm telling you, if you don't tell them, they will not know. Same thing with that mac and cheese. If you don't tell them you use bonza noodles, I'm telling you, bonza noodles, unlike wheat noodles, they are white like regular pasta. So if unless you tell them, they won't know. So I'm telling you, there are ways. Lentils make noodles too. Lentils. Somebody else agreed with me. Mashed cauliflower is awesome. What other items are on the table? The ham. If you're gonna just have a slice of ham, just not too many slices of ham, just have a slice of ham. I eat pork too, so trust me, I understand. But ham's not my thing. But if you want to have ham, go on and have a piece of ham. And then you could honestly, if you're culinary, inquisitive, there are all sorts of ways to figure out how to make turkey so that it's even better than having just a roast turkey or smoked turkey, and it would be healthier. Um, Stuffing. I mean, stuffing. Don't get as much, don't get a half a plate of stuffing. Just get a small portion because stuffing does have a lot of carbs in it. Although some people make stuffing with whole wheat bread, and so that would make it a little bit better. Um, and then desserts, just go for one slice of pie, not the whole pie. And don't make it a big slice. Make it a sliver. Make it a sliver. And yeah, and then for leftovers, you have turkey soup, which can be very healthy, obviously. Turkey sandwiches. So these are all my little ideas. Hopefully, you guys, your families have some ideas, but we've got to watch what we are eating because food is killing us slowly and quickly at the same time. So we have to watch what we're eating because we really do need to crack down on this blood pressure and heart attacks and strokes. These are things that are very, very prominent in our community. I actually worked with Amron. We did blood pressures at St. Sabina Church in Chicago, and that neighborhood was the number one neighborhood in the entire country for stroke deaths in Black people. I was just floored. I was like, in the whole country? But as I sat there and did blood pressures, I saw why. I saw more than a few people that had blood pressures 200 and something over 100 and something. And these weren't seniors necessarily either. I saw people my age and younger. So we have got to do something, you guys, because of course we all want to be here for many, many more Thanksgivings. So let's please nip this in the bud. Does anyone have any other questions? Please let me know. Pop them in the chat, and I will get them. But I think those were two really good questions about 3 things to avoid blood pressure, and the best time to take your blood pressure. And of course, as she said, they will tell you, instruct you, but there is a proper way to take your blood pressure. You need to be seated with both feet flat on the floor. And there is a preferential side too to take your blood pressure, right?
Well, it's usually in the left arm, but it has to be over the blood vessel. The
Yes.
important is the location of the blood pressure is taken from a special reading, and it has to be placed on over the blood vessel. If it's not placed over that blood vessel, you could get a artificially higher or lower reading.
And then also you have to position your arm in a certain way, which is another wonderful thing with the Omron blood pressures is that blood pressure cuffs is they usually have a little sensor, a light that'll let you know that you're holding your arm in the right place. So you can't go wrong with, I mean, anybody can use these blood pressure monitors. They are so amazing, but they really do help you every step of the way. The other benefit, Vital Sight is amazing because obviously you basically have a straight line to your doctor and they know exactly what's going on. But for those patients that don't have a doctor with Vital Sight, Omron blood pressure monitors have apps on your phone, so you don't even have to worry about writing down your blood pressure readings. They will all record in the app. You show up to the doctor, they ask you, and you just pull out the app and you can show them all your readings. And I think that's the best thing ever because even I've had to use that myself. I'm not going to write stuff down. And even if I write it down, I'll probably leave the paper at home, but I will not leave home without my phone. So it was wonderful to open the app and just show, oh, here's my readings. And there you go. And then they could say, oh, you're right. That was white coat syndrome or whatever it was. So that's the other great thing. If your doctor doesn't use Vital Sight and you can't convince them to, then blood pressure monitors from Omron come in all different price points, and they are available on Amazon and at most of the local drugstores. But they definitely are available, and they are the best. As she said, Consumer Reports, everyone talks about they are the best ones on the market. But I hope that you can convince your doctor to get Vital Sight because who would not want to have that immediate contact with their physician? Who wouldn't want to have that? That is just perfect. And physicians, wouldn't you want to be able to treat your patients this way and not have to worry about them missing their appointment because of transportation or missing their appointment because of whatever other obstacles, can get in their way? As we know, health disparities in our community are horrible, unfortunately, and one of them being access. The doctor's office might be 2 bus rides away, unfortunately. just because that's just the way things are. So we want to make sure that we can treat our patients in a timely fashion and in the middle of a pandemic, because, as we know, we are still in the middle of a pandemic. We want to be able to see those numbers that are vital, which is called vital sight, those numbers that are vital to your health. And blood pressure is one of those numbers. And it is just amazing. I'm so excited for you, Dr. Lucas, and your patients, being able to have this access to you, because I mean, that is just awesome. You take your blood pressure, and 2 seconds later, the nurse calls and says, "Wait a minute, what's going on?" That is awesome. That is
It is.
amazing. And when we had home health care with my dad when he came out of the rehab, and that's what we would take his blood pressure twice a day, and it was kind of like vital signs. She would call and say, "Oh, we just got the reading," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." So, or they'd call and say, "Have you done it yet for tonight?" to remind us.
Right.
Oh, somebody has a question. Will long use of blood pressure medications cause kidney decline, or is the issue uncontrolled blood pressure? I know the answer to that, but I'll let you answer.
The issue is poor control of the blood pressure. So that if you don't take the medication, then the blood pressure will remain elevated and it will further damage your kidneys. A lot of people do have side effects from blood pressure medicines, and that's always been the problem because with high blood pressure there's no symptoms, so you don't feel anything. So that many people, for instance, some men don't want to take it because they feel it affects their potency. Some people don't want to take it, it makes them sick or it makes them that. And that's one of the good things about this system is that sometimes I have to change the medications, and I have to change it frequently until I finally come up with a combination that the patient feels comfortable with. So that sometimes if you are having side effects from the medication, don't stop it, because then sometimes you might get a rebound elevation in blood pressure. So it's important that you work with your doctor, and with vital signs that makes it so easy to work with them because you don't have to come in every day and to be checked. You'll be able to stay home, get it monitored until he can finally get you under control. And you really want to keep it less than 130/80, because every day that your blood pressure is elevated, you're taking minutes, sometimes hours off of your life. Also, those mini strokes that can affect your memory. Remember, those are your smallest blood vessels. You don't want to lose your memory or to not be able to be your best possible self.
Yes, definitely. So you guys, you're supposed to be a team anyway with your doctor, but Vital Sight really makes it easy for you to become a team. But you want to make sure that if you are having any side effects, you let your physician know, because there are other drugs. This is not the end all be all to every you there is another medicine out there, and maybe that one will work better for you. So please make sure you communicate with your physician. And if you don't feel comfortable communicating with your physician, you probably have the wrong one and need to find another one. Just like you can say your hairdresser ruined your hair, burnt it out or something, and you go to another one, you go find you another physician. But thank you so much, Dr. Lucas. This has been amazing. I hope everyone that has been watching and is listening is going to talk to their physician about Vital Sight. And if you are a physician and you're treating blood pressure, please make certain that you get the information about Vital Sight, because it will be an immense addition to your office. I'm telling you, and your patients will love you for it. So thank you so much.
Thank you for
And
having me.
oh, no, thank you. This has been awesome. And you guys, as you know, next week is Thanksgiving, but I do have something special. So we will see. I don't, it might air on Thanksgiving, but it might air before that. But we will definitely Thursday nights at 6 Eastern Standard Time, 5 Central, and 3 Pacific. Everyone have a fabulous night. Good night.